Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. As you can tell from the title, I am continuing to delve into the episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond, season by season. We are now on season 4, episode 17, Hackidu. Before I get too far in, just a reminder, if you want to support the channel, you can join the Patreon down below. Depending on the tier, you will gain access to videos early, and you will also be able to request topics or reviews in the future. If you want to do a one-off, the PayPal link is down below. Now, Hackidu, this is a teleplay episode by Lou Schneider and Steve Skrovan. So nice to see these two working on it. And their brains combined gave us a very fun episode, especially since its satire was on point and would actually be pretty accurate for the next couple of years when you look at it. Because Hackidu, the name and the card game within the episode, is a spoof of Japanese cards. It's more spoofing Pokemon because in the late 90s, as anybody who grew up in that era can attest, Pokemon was big. I mean, the card games, the video games, the anime. I mean, come on. Action figures. I mean, even the promotion for the movies through Burger King. I mean, I still got a couple up there somewhere. I just don't know where they are, so I'm not going to move around. But those stuff, they were big. I mean, Pokemon's still big, but its big mainstream appeal and pop culture identity has lessened since then because it was a big craze. I mean, I think nowadays a lot of people could still remember the catchphrase, "Gotta catch 'em all." So here, on point with it. And of course, since this is from the point of view of the parents, it's definitely an episode that the people watching this show at the time and those who grew up as kids in the 90s and are watching this show for the first time, it really becomes more on point. And me, having not watched this episode for several years, I actually don't remember when the last time I watched this episode was. Sitting down and watching it now as an adult with my 32-year-old mind, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot more in this episode than I remember. And the parody is on point, and a lot of that goes with some of the dialogue and the situation. Which one of them is a situation that I don't know how well it goes into like the modern card game crazes with some of the other ones, including Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't know how prevalent it is in, say, Magic the Gathering. Those of you who know, put in the thing down below. That is trading multiple cards for one. That's what sets off the plot. In a way, I guess you could say the card is a MacGuffin. What happens is that Ray and Deborah are volunteering their time at a school function. Ray goes over and starts helping Parker, and they include the usual gags that they do, considering that Parker's actor is Patricia Heaton's real-life husband. You know, the, oh, your boyfriend. Parker's son has been playing with Allie, and they've been trading Hackidu cards. And Allie now has a Scremazor, which is a very rare card, as we'll find out. But Ray sees like, you traded all yours for one, and he undoes it along with Parker, which really upsets Allie. And when everyone else finds out about this, they really get on Ray. I mean, Frank gets on him because, you know, hey, you never mess with the cards. Remember when I ruined your Batman cards by putting them underneath the chair when you were a kid? Oh, yeah. And, of course, Deborah and Robert, the general things like, you don't do that. And, of course, Marie comes in, and she knows a lot about Hackidu, which is what adds another layer to it, because that's where we find out that Scremazors are rare and valuable cards. So Ray just blew it. He goes and talks with Allie about it, and we find out that Allie wanted the card not because of its value, but because it was her favorite character. Now, I could see that going on there, because as a kid, I really didn't know the monetary value of them. I would know certain cards were rare and all that, but it's as I got older, I started finding out more about the monetary value. With Yu-Gi-Oh, it seems they would shift unless you get like a certain printing and it's in tip-top condition, like in those little container thingies. And he decides, you know what, after some prodding, of course, from the rest of the family, especially from Deborah, that he is going to go get a Scremazor. And, of course, where's he going to go? This is going to be the introduction of another character that is going to pop up again in later seasons, and that is going to be Amy's brother. In this episode, he is named Russell, and he's played by Paul Reubens. When he reappears in later seasons, he's played by Chris Elliott, and his name is Peter. The reason for that, of course, is Paul Reubens' infamous 2002 arrest for allegedly possessing child pornography. The reason I say alleged is that when you actually look into the case, you realize that a lot of what they call child pornography, it's one of those things that, like, is it though? Some really hardcore conservatives, tough on crime people might call it that, but just the way it's described is like, looks more like art that some might call distasteful. It's going to depend on who you go. But of course, Rubens did do an agreement of some course. He didn't really serve any jail time, if I remember right. I mean, he had another career after that. It's just the controversy involving it. They decided not to bring him back, and they slightly changed the character the next time we see it. Here, he seems to be kind of a conspiracy guy. You know, you don't look IRS. That's the point. You don't. You're man. And of course, talking about upping the medication. And maybe it's been a while since I've seen the episodes that Peter appears in later where he's actually a central character, not a background player. But I don't remember them talking about medication and all that. I remember he still runs a comic book store, but this is the only time we see it. But Paul does a pretty good job. He works off Ray pretty well in the scene that they share. And Ray does get a card and a bunch of comic books for Allie, which one thing that Russell says in this part kind of has me chuckling a little bit, just the whole concept. And it is one of those things that I bet a lot of parents at the time were thinking this when it comes to the Pokemon card craze and then later the Yu-Gi-Oh craze and other ones, that it's junk food for the mind. It's kiddie crack. And I'm actually surprised they got away with saying crack in this type of context on TV, but I guess, hey, it's fun. But what I found funny about this is he goes from that and then he's like, your daughter should be reading comics. A couple generations before, they would have been saying the same thing about comic books, that it's kiddie. Oh, this is kiddie crack. You kids shouldn't be reading this. Tarantula Man. Urgh. Of course, Allie gets her Scramazor card, and Ray has to pay out the money for it, of course, which is one thing he's like, Urgh. But I don't think they said it in this episode. It's like, can you put a price on your child's smile? Oh, yeah, they do. I think they do say it. And then Ray's like, yes, blah, blah, blah. Which is, of course, the case, but it's like, you wouldn't have had to pay that money, Ray, if you did not mess up in the first place. But without that, there'd be no episode and there'd be no humor. Now, whereas most of this card game stuff is Japanese, here they decide to make it Korean, which to an extent still makes sense. From what I understand, there's still a big gaming community in South Korea. And of course, since Frank was in the Korean War, it allows for some funny remarks for him. Like when he finds out how much certain cards could be. This is a zinger he pulls off. This is the worth of the North Koreans. Those blasted North Koreans. Of course, if this episode was made nowadays, of course, people would be putting memes on it going, you can't post that. But it is pretty funny with that one. Although this is another fun episode. I mean, I remember liking it good enough when I was little, but this is definitely one that has aged better as I've gotten older. If I ever do have kids, this is probably going to be one that I'll identify with a little bit more, because I have a feeling if I have children, boy, girl, whether they're anything like me when it comes to their interest, I have a feeling they'll probably be into the card game crazes again, whatever it is then, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh! In its 17th and a half iteration, other card games based off anime, whatever it is, I have a feeling they will be that. Whether this will make the top 10 of the season, it's probably in the running at least. At the very minimum, we'll hit the honorary mention, but we'll see. Now, the next episode is definitely going to be in the running for top of the season, and that, of course, is an episode revolving around Ray and Deborah and their relationship, and Deborah finally, well, I say finally, she's done it before, making something good. Wah, 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 wah. Till next time, guys.